Well, hello, sport fans. It's Larry Eater and Stuart Weir. This is your favorite program of the week, Athletics Chat. It's number 64. 6, 4, using the fingers. Get to use the toes next week, but got to get that pedicure done. Stuart, great to see you.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm almost over jet lag from Tokyo. I still wake up rather early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, doing good.
You have a voice like Rod Stewart right now. Could you do Cut Across Shorty for us?
I had a cold and my throat is still recovering. So sorry
I'm sorry, dear friend.
And I'm sorry, I don't do impressions unless it's in my contract.
Okay, Stuart, I'm sorry for that interruption while I hooked the antennas up between the musk oxen's ears. The cable company we have in Wisconsin, Spectrum, may be the worst in North America. I'm going to invite readers to send us commentary on that, but again, apologies. So we were talking about, I forgot what we were talking about because I got so frustrated with my wife. Coffee, yeah. So you were talking about Nescafe, and I drink Trader Joe's, which is a cheaper version of Whole Foods. You may have one in London, and it's like $3.95 US, like about £2 a pound. And then I go out and get some real stuff after our chat. We will drive 10 miles to a small coffee shop.
In my experience, the two athletes to listen to are Jody Williams and Lavia Nielsen in terms of the best coffee in town.
Okay, then I will. I like Jody's program. We're going to post a couple of them. She's done a really good job, and she does some of the funniest pictures. And I thought the pictures with her and her sister were pretty sweet too. So.
And she liked our post about her. So what more do you want?
That's tremendous. I'm going to interview Beth Robin hopefully in the next week. I sent her a note, told her I wasn't a stalker and that I'm a friend of yours and she apparently likes you. And so she said that was okay. So, yeah.
Right.
But, Martin Rudy made that mistake a year ago. Look what happened to him. So, these athletes got to be careful. So, hey, did you get to talk to your pole vault record holder, is that Harry Koppel, about his broken teeth?
No, I didn't.
Okay. We'll have to follow up with a thoughtful question on that. What did you hear about Adam Jamili? Anything after we saw him have such a rough time in the rounds?
I had a chat with him at the airport. We were on the same flight. He just shrugged his shoulders and says, "That's sport, isn't it? That my hamstring should go just in the last warm-up exercise before the race." Basically, he said, because for the Olympics, I felt I had to just get it strapped and give it a go and see if I could get through. And he finished the 200 in a time of 1 minute 58 seconds.
Okay, that's
sadly that wasn't fast enough to get him through to the semifinals.
Yeah, he could beat me in the 200 still. Were you surprised?
Don't you think that's wonderful the way our sport timekeepers actually record?
Oh my God!
The fact that it took him 1 minute and 58 seconds to do the 200 meters.
Yeah, thank God none of them are anally retentive. Hey, what did you think about Dina Asher-Smith? Were you surprised after she withdrew from the 200 in how well she did in the 4x1? I thought she was brilliant, but I just wanted to get your idea. Did you suspect she would do the relay?
I find the whole thing a mystery because when she talked, I'm just trying to get this all clear in my mind. she pulled out of its head and said she had a grumpy hamstring.
Yeah.
But then later it emerged that it was actually quite a serious injury.
Yeah.
But yet she was ready to run the 100 and didn't quite make the final. She was, I think she was about the 10th best with 8 qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the whole story about what a serious injury it was and how she had gone to this famous doctor in Germany.
Yeah.
And she would be pulling out of the 200 very sadly. And then suddenly she's running the relay.
Yeah.
And she's not only running the final of the relay, but she's running the prelim.
Yeah.
And not only is she running it, but she's running leg 3, which of course is round the bend, rather than running leg 2, which is pretty straight. So I am struggling to understand the extent of the injury. How, I mean, an injury that caused you to pull out of the 200, but yet you're able to run the relay a couple of days later. It's just, I'm sorry, it's beyond my little brain to quite work out how this all fits together.
Yeah. Is she competing anymore in the season or not?
I think I saw on the Diamond League website that she's running in Paris.
Wow. Let's get to the delicate subject of CJ Uja. Mr. Uja, apparently Athletics Integrity had him in their sights for a bit and decided to announce after he participated in the 4x1 that he has a positive test. And I've just seen one response from him, which was he will respect the procedure and he's never used anything to gain benefit. It sounds like someone's British Athletics has advised him, which rightly so. And if there are any extenuating circumstances for him to be able to talk to that with AIU and the doping folks. I've only seen a few articles from the UK. How is it being played in the UK?
Well, first of all, I need to say that I know nothing about this at all beyond what I have read. Yeah. But it seems that the consensus in the articles is that he's probably taken a contaminated supplement and that he has not knowingly done anything wrong, but because he has put something inside his body which was contrary to the rules, that he's likely to finish up with a ban, perhaps a 1 year or a 6 month ban rather than a 4 year. But that the articles that I'm reading are saying that sadly the British team will lose their Olympic medal.
Yeah.
That, as I say, is really all I know.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to me about Holly Bradshaw. You got to chat with her since her lovely performance?
I've exchanged messages. I haven't actually spoken to her directly. I did a Zoom with her the day afterwards. She is one of the nicest people in the sport. Yeah. And I asked her, are you doing anything different? And she said, no. The difference is, for the last 4 years, I've not been injured. for the last 4 years, I have been able to train. And because I wasn't sure I could ask the question of her, I asked the question of her coach, Scott. And he came back with the same answer. He said, it's just consistency of training, adding building block to building block.
Yeah.
So she said, I've just reaped the reward of getting 4 years consistent training, no injuries.
Yeah.
She is, if obsessive is a negative word, I would like to find a positive word to describe her, because as far as possible, this year, she has driven around Europe rather than flying, because you can control who you're with when you drive and you can't when you fly.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as she says, and as a side effect of that, also, you're less likely to lose your poles than the airlines are.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue about having a bad experience with jet lag. So she thought, never again. And so she started 2 weeks before Tokyo, going to bed half an hour earlier, until the point where she was going to bed about 6 p.m. So that when she got to Tokyo, she was already in Tokyo time.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
I mean, it's just typical of her, that just attention to detail.
Yeah.
And, she had jumped 487 about 7 years ago and had not managed to reproduce it. Then she did 490 in the British Championship, and then 485 in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lovely story, because she's just somebody who is just so committed to pole vaulting, who is always happy to talk, and a thoroughly nice person. And if anyone deserved an Olympic medal, it was her.
Yeah, no, I feel that way about her and about Laura Muir, Yeah. I think Laura, I was just reading an article. One of my, we have a group of young college writers that we're working with on a program out of University of Oregon. And one of the young women writers wrote a piece about the 1500 and talked about how many times Laura had come close to a medal in the 1500 at a global event, and how cool it was to see her do well. Yeah. And have you got to talk to Laura since Tokyo?
Briefly at the airport, because again, we were on the same flight. But there's a great story about Laura, that in her first training session back, it was in Glasgow, where she lives. It was wet, and she and Gemma were running laps around the track, and suddenly Laura stopped, reached down, and did something. She had found a snail on the track and had stopped to lift it off the track so that no one stood on it. Once a bet, always a bet.
Oh yeah. No, how is Gemma doing? How did she feel about coming so close to a medal? Did she get to share with you about that?
I haven't spoken to her. I've spoken to Andy, her coach, and he just says, 7/100 of a second from a medal.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, I think that's a very, very, very tough one. I look at the U.S. performances, and a couple interesting things are going on over here. Rachel Berman, who is she writes for the Wall Street Journal. She is one of the finest journalists in all of sports. Her writing is very thoughtful, very detail-oriented, and you can rely on her fact checking. She did a very good piece, well written and thoughtful, about the men's U.S. team in the running events not having an individual goal, and this is the first time since apparently 1908. And since you weren't around till 1912, and I wasn't there till 1920.
No.
It's we don't know, but and so several people kind of copycatted Rachel. I don't think they really added much to the story. Then one of our dear readers said, "Hey, got this whole story about the men, but when are you going to write something about the U.S. women? They had one of their best performances ever," which they did. I mean, it was phenomenal. Gold medals in the pole vault and the 400 hurdles, it's just in the 4x4. It's just some fantastic performances and some surprise medals too. And in the 800, so it's just, I think that for the U.S., and this is, I've written about Olympics since 1984. I've viewed Olympics since 1968. It seems when I go back forensically and look at things that the U.S. goes in cycles. I think two things are happening now that you and I have discussed. One is the quality of athletes worldwide that are coming into track and field athletics.
Mm-hmm.
They're as good as any athlete in any other sport, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
And in the U.S. especially, in the 1990s, we were, I remember going to Gothenburg, and we had a U.S. guy in the 5,000 who ran 14:28 in his heat. I believe he was injured. But it was just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it was a real question. Were our distance runners going to come back? And they did. And the athletes we have now, and the men and women's 800 to 10,000 in the U.S. are spectacular. Much better all-around athletes than we've had in the past. It almost reminds me of the 1920s and 30s, where you had these great all-around athletes who would come into track and field. And it's the same thing in the UK. I mean, especially like you look at the multi-events, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, Jessica Ennis, Morgan Lake. You've had some tremendous athletes, and it's totally, it's fascinating to me, the kind of cycles we go in. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a question that was being asked in Tokyo was the US, as I understand it, did not have a preparation camp in Tokyo, whereas the British team were there for 2 weeks. And was that a mistake? Did that affect some of the perhaps slightly flat US performances early in the games? I mean, have you heard any comments of that?
Here's my take on it. I think it was a total screw up. I think I understand USATF's decision, but I think it was, in retrospect, a bad decision. What I've heard from athletes when they go to these training camps, that every attention to detail is looked after for them. They focus on one thing, and that's competing. That's not what happened this time around. Mm-hmm. And the difference between first and sixth in these major events and athletes doing well and not doing well is that much. Mm-hmm. For example, in the men and women's hammer throw, I expected medals for the U.S. Both Deanna Price and Rory Winkler, just had absolute crap days. It happens sometimes. We all have those. Was it because they had to expend so much energy dealing with their own stuff, not having a training camp? I think the training camps, the U.S. has done an amazing job in training camps the last 4 or 5 events. And I think the lack of one, it shows that they need one. I know it was well-meaning. I don't have a problem with looking out for athletes and their concerns. My issue is, if you compare it to the teams that had camps, I think we did a disservice to our athletes. In a difficult situation, I'm not sure how much better they could have done it, but it sounds like a training camp could have really helped. Yeah, so I think there are little things. That's why some of the things are off for us. A training camp, I'm not sure, would it have helped with the men's 4x1 if they'd have actually practiced? My feeling about the U.S. 4x1 is it insults the athletes and the coaches that are involved. USATF needs to take it over, take $1 million from the Nike sponsorship and say, we're going to develop a relay team for the sprint relays and the long relays. This is the way it is. Coaches, yes, you can put some people into the long, but this is our sprint relay. Get your act together. You pretty much know who's going to be there. You know who could medal. And the truth is, if we'd have had anybody getting it around the track, we could have gone under 38 seconds. We could have run 37.5 in our sleep. And that's the kind of thing that I don't understand those kind of things. And I try to stay out of that stuff, but it was just like, it was terrible,
Yeah, a quick comparison on that. I won't name the individuals, but one American athlete in Doha told me that he or she had taken the baton twice from the athlete giving it prior to running in the World Championship.
Yeah.
If you ask Amani Ranticott, Dean Asher Smith, how many times have you taken the baton from Asher Phillip? The answer would be 200.
Wow.
Because they have relay camp after relay camp where they practice the changeovers. And for example, a girl who was incredibly unlucky not to run at all in Tokyo, Ashley Nelson. Now, Ashley rarely makes an individual team.
Yeah.
But she has incredibly fast hands, I'm told. And so she makes, if she's running against a faster athlete, she will perhaps lose half a second on the running, but she will make up quite a portion of that by doing the 2 changeovers quicker.
Yeah.
And why Britain has managed to finish second in that men's relay and third in the women's with one athlete out of the 8 actually running in the final, 2 out of 8 because of the false start. But so they're not as fast as other individuals, but because they drill how to do the relay, they win medals.
Yeah, no. That's what it's all about. How is Josh Kerr being feted in the UK right now?
Well, certainly Scottish athletics keep reminding us that Lauren Muir and Josh Kerr are both Scottish, not just British.
Yeah.
In a way, because he is based in America, he's probably less visible over here than someone like Jake Whiteman.
Yeah.
I thought that Jake made a very honest comment after the 1500 that he just had got his tactics wrong, that he had gone out too fast early in the race and therefore couldn't recover from such a fast start to produce a fast finish.
Yeah.
Very honest to admit that. Admit that Josh had actually managed his race better.
Your thoughts on Keeley Hodgkinson and her race?
I think she's an amazing talent. I think for someone of 19, she's got talent and speed, so we know that. But she also seems to have a very cool head when she's racing. In the British Championship, if you freeze it 50 meters out, she wasn't going to come in the first two. But actually, she had judged her race to perfection. And she came past Jamariki and Lauren Muir to take first place. And similarly, as you watch the race unfold in Tokyo, it didn't necessarily look as if she was going to be the one to get the silver medal. But again, she had the racing brain switched on and got it right.
Yeah.
There's a great picture or post by Jenny Meadows, who sort of helps her husband to coach Keeley, about how normally they discuss the race plan in the current era over Zoom while Keeley is doing her makeup.
Wow.
Which, in a way, perhaps tells you that she's a bit of a laid-back individual.
Yeah. What did you think about Jody Williams getting a PB in the semi and equaling it in the final?
Just superb.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Jody has taken a bit of convincing that the 400 really is her event. And it will be interesting to see what she can do next year, when I imagine in winter her training will be more focused on the 400 than it has been this year. Because even when she was running the bronze medal run in the 400 indoor, she was still saying, nah, I'm a 200 runner.
Yeah.
And of course, in the British trials, she won both, and so therefore could have opted to run in both in Doha, in Tokyo, but chose the 400. And in her words to me immediately after the race, she had no right to make the final. If you look on paper who she was running against, she had no right to make the final, but she just produced a gutsy PR to get into the final and did it again in the final.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. We've talked about that before. If you can score a PB or equal a PB in a final, an Olympic final, you're really doing something. And how is the perception been of the British team among the British media? Are they saying nice job? Are they saying, hey, you guys have got some problems?
Well, we got to about halfway through the Olympics and we hadn't got a medal, and it wasn't clear where a medal was coming from. In the end, there might be a feeling of we got away with it, that we got to the 6 medals we were looking for, although we may lose the relay one. And you could say there was some misfortune, and there was some misfortune we brought on ourselves. When you get 3 runners in the semi-finals of the 100 meters, and before the final is over, 2 of them are false started, that's pretty frustrating. KJT, Dean Asher Smith, Morgan Lake, all injured. Is that just bad luck, or does it say something about the medical team? It's a question which is above my pay grade, but it's a question that perhaps somebody needs to address.
What about the men's 4x4? What's happening there? Questions there? Are you know, it looks like a lot of athletes are kind of retiring right now.
Well, let me just check this before I say it, but I think we didn't have a man in the flat 400, nor did we have some in the 400 hurdles.
Yeah.
So basically, we do not have the talent that we used to have.
Yeah.
At this moment, our sprinters are better than they were 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the 4x4, I mean, remember in London 2017, we got medals in all 4 relays.
Yeah.
We had a DQ in Rio, which was very controversial because a judge said someone had stepped out and there was no footage to support that. But just at the moment, we do not have any male 400-meter runners who had the qualifying standard to go to the Olympics. And similarly, among the women, we had Jodie doing an amazing job to get to the final. But, the days of Christina Horrigold being in the medals, the days of Ailey Doyle being a consistent finalist in the hurdles and a brilliant relay runner, that isn't happening at the moment. So,
yeah.
We didn't get a medal in any of the 3 4x4 relays.
Did Jessie Knight run in the 4x4 for you guys?
She did not. Jessie, of course, in the hurdles had the misfortune of slipping and falling before the first hurdle.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Again, it's rumor and speculation. So I don't know what happened between that and her not running in the relay, because I would have thought that she should have run in the relay. But whether she I'd heard that she opted just not to do it, but that's just rumor. So I don't know if that's true or not, or whether a decision was taken.
What is your take? So talk to me about COVID in the UK right now. Are there restrictions coming back? Are there concerns coming back? Are the numbers going up?
We have a lot more freedom than we used to have, and the numbers have not gone up significantly.
Yeah, because we're having,
for example, last weekend, Manchester United played a soccer game in front of 75,000. Nothing like that has happened for 2 years.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, yeah, we're having some of the opposite right now in Oregon, where the Prefontaine Classic is this coming weekend. The only Diamond League meet in North America at this time, and one of my favorite meets. They've got fires in Oregon. They've got increased COVID. They're having challenges with the State Department letting people in to the meet. So it's craziness. It should be a fantastic meet, but I think the folks behind it, Tom Jordan and John Capriati, must be having just challenges galore, and we wish them the best, because Diamond League has been a wonderful stalwart for us during the pandemic. What do you think about someone said something to me last week that either going to have these brilliant performances in the Diamond League the next few weeks, or we're going to have some snorers, because you don't know how people are coming back from Tokyo, how beat up they are. We're seeing some nice performances in Switzerland. So, what Ajla de la Pointe just went 1091. I watched that video before we got on with you, and there's some lovely small meets in Europe in between the big ones coming up.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take? There's no more meets in the UK for the season, but there will be Brussels. There will be
Lausanne, Brussels, Paris, and Zurich.
Yeah, I just got denied going to Paris. I've got to send a love note to everybody saying that I'm going to be in Wisconsin and watching them on TV. But it sounds like they're letting even U.S. media in, which is nice. It's the challenge of getting out of the country, and I'm a little concerned about airports in the U.S. right now. So we will have to see, my friend. But it is great seeing you. Please take care of that of your cold. And and congratulations for having the great score in golf. That made the U.S. papers here. Was that your?
Yeah, well, there you go.
What was your score?
Oh, well, it was 17 points per 9 holes. It just playing with my wife after work, and it was. I mean, my standard's pretty low, so it's easier to get to do well.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're getting out to play golf. There's some sanity left in the world. Stuart, thank you as always. Thank you for all the great stuff you did from Tokyo. I just put up the piece on the high jump, which I loved. And thank you again. And Jody's piece was great. Stay safe. Thank you for Athletics Chat 64. This is Larry Eater, Stuart Weir, Athletics Chat 64. Everybody stay safe. Thank you to Mike Deering, our production manager, who puts up with very much, and today had to put up with about 10 stops at the very beginning, thanks to Spectrum, the worst cable provider in North America. Be good, everybody. Well, hello, sports fans. This is Athletics Chat 64, the epilogue. I like my shirt. This is the shirt from 2005 Helsinki. Yes, the shirt is 16 years old. That was a glorious World Championships. And this is August 16th. This is Athletics Chat 64. Stuart and I just finished. No thanks to Spectrum Cable, the worst cable provider in North America. I hope I've got that in a few times. Anywho's, so what did we talk about this week? We talked about perceptions of the U.S. and the British teams. U.S. team men scored medals. They did win gold medals, but in individual men's events, they did not win a gold medal. First time in a long time. Rachel Berman from the Wall Street Journal did a lovely piece. I encourage you to read it. We've linked to it on Twitter. The women had one of their best performances ever. Is it ebb and flow? My belief, it's several things. First one, the quality of the athletes in track and field has never been better around the world, all 206 countries. The under 20 championships in Kenya, Nairobi, begin on Wednesday. 100 countries are going to be there, not the U.S. and a few others, but there will be some tremendous performances. If you recall, in 2014, that's how Joshua Cheptegei, who did quite well in Eugene, Oregon, at the was it the World Juniors that year, or World Youth? So the talent, the young talent coming up in the sport is better, but also in the U.S. there are better quality athletes on the men and women's sides coming into track and field because they see it as an important sport. And one of the things that's happened since 1996, it's really helped track and field, is the growth of social media, the growth of the internet, the growth of blogs, the communication between athletes, young athletes and emerging athletes, media sites such as ours, and Let's Run and Track and Field News and Runner's World, which provide information. And I think we provide better information now than we did in the past. The communities of coaches online who share information, letting people know that there's no secret sauce. It's about consistent hard work. There's lots of ways to get to your goals. You've got to find one that works for you. And coaching in our sport is both an art and a science. Okay, that's what people need to consider. The 4x1 men's infuriated me, and I'm not angry with the athletes. I really like the athletes involved, but I'm not even going to bring their names up because I know social media has probably been harassing them. It's an insult to the quality of our athletes and the quality of American track and field not to have sprint relay and long relay camps. You find 25, 26 athletes, you give them 40 grand each, you tell them you're going to be at 4 camps a year and you're going to bust your ass, and you watch this stuff go away. We can run 37.5 pretty much in our sleep if we can get the baton around the track. 37.5 is a good time. 37.05 is a great time. 37.08 is a great time. Those are the kind of times. I'm not belittling the Italians. I think they did a great job. They competed well. They competed like champions. And the thing about it is there is talent everywhere, not just the good old USA. Something we didn't discuss was NBC's coverage of the sport. I will probably do a conversation with Larry on that because I think there's some details and nuances that we need to discuss. But all in all, I think it was a pretty darn good Olympics. I think the IOC, I think the LOC, I think USA Track and Field, I think USOPC, I think World Athletics, especially World Athletics, all need a pat on the back. The media support that World Athletics did was fantastic. Their website was superb. The IOC website was quite good as well, and need to pat both on the back. But we had as good an Olympics as we could. We lost one major athlete, Sam Kendricks, the pole vaulter, the American pole vaulter, to COVID. Sam is a class act, and Sam will be back in hopefully in another Olympics, World Championship. He'll pick up some hardware. It's sad that he didn't get to compete because I think he could have shaken it up a little bit. But such is life, c'est la vie. But it was a very good Olympics. Now we've got the Prefontaine Classic this weekend. We hope the folks at Pre are able to do all the good things they need to do. This is Larry Eater with RunBlogRun saying thank you for listening and watching Epilogue Athletics Chat 64 and Athletics Chat 64. Thanks to Mike Deering, our production manager, for managing this whole thing. And yeah, there was a cable company that kind of sucked today and screwed up my Wi-Fi, but I'm not going to give them any more publicity. All right, be good.